jump right in if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
So you have a degree in mechanical engineering and you have a PhD in biomedical engineering. So what made you choose the medical device industry?
I think it's a great way to engineering is all about problem solving. I mean, that's really what we're taught all through college. And my degree in biomedical engineering was kind of focused on problem solving in the healthcare space. And I suppose it sets an extra challenge, I think, in terms of trying to design a device that works, but then works within the biological environment. So I don't know, I think I like a challenge, so it set an extra challenge in terms of solving engineering problems. And also, I mean, I think really, it means that you can apply what you do to something that actually really adds value. So that also is really good. So, in terms of feedback and in terms of the work, it ticks an extra box.
So after you received your doctorate, you went to Medtronic. What was that like?
I got really great experience in Medtronic. So certainly it gave me the combination of applying what I'd learned throughout all of my academic career in terms of solving problems through engineering. But also it was a great sort of results-driven team. I'm a real kind of results-driven person, and so kind of got into program management roles pretty early on, and had really great leadership in Medtronic in terms of making sure that, truthfully, you got rewarded for hard work. So I managed to get really great opportunity, probably beyond the level or position I was at, but because I kind of was able to deliver on projects, I continued to get really great experience. And very much work on global projects, so got a full exposure to both the full medical device development life cycle, very interesting technology, and then global teams. So really covered a lot of boxes and probably managed to fit in about, I think, 10 years experience in the 5 years I was there. So yeah, I really value my time in Medtronic.
I feel like I'm seeing myself in you. I'm loving this. So let's get into the meat of the story. What is the story behind CroiValve?
Great. So truthfully, with CroiValve, the story starts with Dr. Martin Quinn. So Dr. Martin Quinn is an interventional cardiologist here in Dublin, based in St. Vincent's Hospital and Blackrock Clinic. And he would have done the first transcatheter aortic valve implant in Ireland, so would have always been at the forefront of technology and saw how this type of technology could transform patients' lives. And very much also, I suppose, I think was an avid innovator and was always thinking about new and better ways to kind of try and solve some of these problems. So truthfully, he's been kind of innovating and writing patents for a long time. He recognized, I suppose, having started with the aortic work and had some concepts on the mitral side. He then recognized tricuspid regurgitation as a clear unmet need. And then he patented the concept behind the CroiValve technology back in 2014. And then he was looking to understand a way of kind of taking that from an idea on a page into reality. So he got introduced to one of the lecturers in Trinity College here in Dublin, Professor Bruce Murphy, who I suppose had also been doing some work in transcatheter mitral valve technology, so understood the space, and then also understood how to, I suppose, capitalize on some of the opportunities in Ireland in terms of grant funding for early stage medical device development. So Bruce and Martin together, I suppose, wrote a grant and got some early stage funding from Enterprise Ireland here in Ireland. It was kind of very fortuitous timing. I had known Bruce years ago during my PhD. He had been linked to the project. And they got the funding, but contingent on finding an experienced team. So the timing happened to coincide with a point in my life where I was really strongly considering a move from multinationals to startups. I had spent over a decade in multinationals, as we've talked about. I got really great experience. But I, truthfully, as I said, I'm a very results-driven person and had been working on some projects where the value proposition hadn't probably been very well thought through. And those sort of projects, no matter how well you deliver on the projects, if they're not built in really strong foundations, it's very hard for them to be successful. So I was working out how I could kind of make sure I was focused on a clear project with a clear value proposition and a very clear target. And that's where the startup environment, where it's one clear focus and there isn't kind of the bigger picture strategic change that can happen in multinationals to influence that. So I was starting to analyze, a move into startups and what the right move was. And Bruce reached out to see if I was going to be interested in this particular opportunity. So the timing was just incredibly lucky. And I met Bruce and Martin and saw both. I mean, for me, as I've mentioned, team is very, very important as well. I think team, for me, it's I want a good collaboration, I want a strong working environment. So saw that the team and the caliber behind us, Martin, is excellent in terms of his contribution to this project and has continued to be such. So yeah, I made the jump, quit my full-time job and joined the startup team. And also, just to mention, Bruce also brought on board our fourth founder, Paul Heenahan, who's also kind of an engineer who loves early stage device development. So the four of us got together in 2016, and yeah, haven't looked back since. I think it's a really great collaboration, and as I said, it very much is a testament to how, if you bring a number of different people together, focused on a very clear goal, that you can really achieve a lot, even if it's only a small team.
What was your number one priority?
So I think it's really about ensuring we're bringing on board people that, you know, understand the value of what we're doing and are really committed to delivering on that. I think with any of these journeys, everyone you talk to will tell you that it's not going to be, you know, a full upscale trajectory. Everything's not going to be very straightforward. So it's a combination of people who, you know, have experience and potentially have lived this journey before, but then also are prepared to stick with it, you know, through the full journey that it's going to take for this device to get to market and be successful. So really it's about commitment. It's, I think, for people and for me, always when I'm assessing people, I think it's really about their motivation, that the people need to be really committed and have a motivation around the exact, you know, role they're doing that's far beyond just a title or a salary. And so I think from that side of things, it's making sure we're bringing on board people who are committed. And I think we're very lucky. I mean, you know, obviously, as you mentioned, it is a locally started project. We certainly, you know, both through my network and other networks, you know, have managed to reach into a full kind of global infrastructure of people in terms of advisors, but also there is great experience on the ground here in Ireland in this space, which we were able to tap into, which is great.
So talk me through the journey from diagnosis to a patient having the CroiValve device implanted.
Sure. So these patients are heart failure patients and typically have kind of multiple issues, you know, in terms of both probably the left and right side of the heart not functioning correctly. Truthfully, the right side of the heart has historically kind of been forgotten, and the tricuspid valve is actually known as the forgotten valve. So it's not something that that I think historically has been the first thing that the heart failure clinics have looked to treat. But I think now with the growing momentum and recognition that that the value of the treatment can bring, I think that situation is changing. So effectively what happens with the patients would come into a heart failure clinic, they will be assessed by the heart failure team, typically because these patients are too sick for surgery. They're typically very elderly, you know, over 70 years old and have multiple comorbidities, that then the team would assess what is the right intervention. And truthfully, in terms of the current situation, these patients, the only option currently is for surgery or for just medication. Surgery only happens in 0.5% of cases because they're too ill, so really that isn't truthfully a real option for these patients. And the medication is only kind of, it doesn't treat the illness, it doesn't prolong life, it just kind of manages the symptoms in a short term. So I'd really hope that we will give these heart failure teams a suitable treatment option, and then once we provide data to them around the value of that, they will choose a percutaneous intervention, and that's where the CroiValve solution, which we would see as having significant advantages over others in development in terms of ease of use, being atraumatic, being very effective, that it's a very easy decision then for the interventionist to choose that. And that's certainly what we're hearing from, you know, key opinion leaders and other heart failure teams and cardiologists that we've talked to about our technology.
What was the last milestone CroiValve achieved, and what achievement would make you feel like you finally made it?
Probably our last biggest milestone was completing a 30-day chronic animal implant. So for our technology, obviously the longer term, it's a heart valve implant, and the longer term animal endpoints are the key bit of data that's everyone looking for. We have a very novel anchoring method. So probably a key question that we get is that anchoring method going to keep the device in place over a long period of time? So a 30-day animal study was a very key milestone for us, and we just completed that recently with very positive outcomes. So that's probably that was a real win for the team. And truthfully, that's feeding into probably we're currently in a very active fundraising round, and that data point is probably one of the key bits of data that investors are most interested in. So very much feeds into as well all of our ongoing discussions with the investment community. In terms of when I feel I've made it, I'm probably someone who always sets very high targets, and so truthfully, you know, I think probably, you know, the next. I mean, obviously, we have a long journey to go down. We need to raise, you know, significant capital, but certainly, probably, I think for all of the team, getting the implant into humans and into patients is probably, you know, a really critical milestone. I think that will be probably, you know, the next most important thing for us to achieve, and that's really what we're focused on. But obviously, a lot of other elements and milestones that need to feed into getting there.
Looking ahead for 2018, what are CroiValve's priorities?
So truthfully, in terms of developing a heart valve implant, it's obviously a capital intense project. So probably one of our most critical activities is fundraising. We're raising a seed round this year, so we're looking to close that in the next 6 months. And then on that, expand the team. As we've talked, the team is critical to the success of the project. So we're looking to then add to the great team we have and bring some more experience on to really accelerate the development of this project. So they're the two key milestones for this year.
What has been the most surprising part of this journey from inception to commercialization?
This is my first time in a startup environment, and obviously we've got a really small, internal team within CroiValve. But the most surprising thing to me is the amount of support and advice we get from people outside of our team with no direct kind of return for that advice. But truthfully, there's a very good startup community. There's hugely experienced individuals, both in Ireland and worldwide, that actually just want to see new technology, get to market and want to see successful startups. So they're really happy to give you their time and give you their advice. And that's been really great, that where you can work in a really small team, but you actually have this broader community that really is trying to give you advice. And so what's been really surprising is how much time people will give me, for no real return for themselves, but just to try and pay it forward. And particularly when that's coming from hugely experienced people, that's incredibly valuable. That's been really great.
Lucy, I appreciate you being with us today. I want to put the spotlight on you one more second. Are there any final thoughts, any lessons learned, or anything that you want to share with anyone watching us today?
In terms of lessons learned, I think it's just joining one of these events, you can see the really great innovation that's happening in the world. I think, from everything you hear, it's harder to raise money, harder to get over regulatory bars, harder to get over reimbursement bars, but still I think, people are rising to that challenge. And I think there's lots of examples of people showing that it can be done. So I think we all just need to persevere and, as I say, help each other get to the end point.
Well, I wish you the best wishes from my entire MedTech Strategist team.
Great, thank you.